All right.
All right, you ready?
There we go.
All right. So I'm Mike Carroll, and I'm here with,
Chris Connors.
yeah. So the two of us kind of came up with this idea for what we're calling Scrappy circuits. And what Scrappy circuits is a way of kind of taking apart things, mining your own parts, being scrappy, and then using those parts to be an inventor. So Chris, what is the I don't know, the main source for these parts? What do we always use?
Well, main source is tea candles, which are inexpensive and easier to get and have a couple of handy little supplies in them. But then also, there's lots of other things that you can get out of the recycling bin. Um, you know,
Perfect. So yeah, these guys go for at a dollar store, you get a 2 pack for $1. So about 50 cents each, and that's the most expensive price. Well, I mean, I guess you can get like fancy ones that are more expensive, but what I'm trying to say is you can go online and buy them in bulk for pretty cheap. I bought a box of 100 for $25. And what's nice is Chris is a teacher, I'm a teacher, and as we with we're makers, but we're always kind of thinking of how can I do this with 20 kids, 100 kids, and not have to, miss a mortgage payment in doing so. So this is a great way in doing that. So do you have your tea light ready?
I do.
All
I
right.
have. I These ones came in a little 4 pack, and these ones when you turn them on, they flicker.
Oh,
And not
nice.
all of them flicker. Most of them are either yellow or white. So this one has a little plastic tab that keeps the battery from getting drained while it's in transit. Also, this one has a little screw in it. So that means I'm going to need a screwdriver. So I've got a little screwdriver right here.
Yeah, they
And
come in all different shapes and sizes. Here's a snowman one that I found. Here's a cool red one. I have a star and then a flower one that I found. So I've been collecting
okay.
these. Some cool ones. I think that's it for my fancy ones. Yeah, that's it. But pretty cool.
I'm going to switch over to a different camera and we'll see how this goes. Yeah.
All right.
So are we doing a race?
On your mark, get set, go. Yeah.
uh,
So we're gonna
so
take them apart. So the first thing you can see Chris is doing is his has a screw. So he's taking the screw out, and then he's also kind of taking this battery
So
uh,
actually popping the battery cover off just opened up the battery cover,
out.
and then the screw holds the back of the tea candle on and onto the main top part. And so I'm gonna see if I can get the screw off of here. And the screwdriver that I have is a straight screwdriver, but the screw is a Phillips head screwdriver, but seems to be working. One of the things that I think we both like about this project is there's lots of different ways that you can remix it, and you can do it with the supplies that you have on hand and the tools that you have on hand, and it just kind of all works.
Yeah. Yeah. So you take apart your battery, or take your battery out of your LED light. So these batteries are 3-volt batteries. They're very reflective, which I'm noticing. You can kind of see around my office a little bit outside, which is pretty cool.
Got that
Um,
screw out.
they are nice batteries. Funny, they actually will sell one of these batteries for $1 at the dollar store, but you can buy two LED lights for $1. So if you know what you're doing, you can get two of these batteries and some spare parts.
So
So what Chris
I
is
had
doing,
to, having a straight screwdriver was definitely handy on this. And so I had to kind of pry this thing apart. And then once it's apart, a couple things happen. The flame analog comes out, and then you have this round part, which is a neat thing. And then the switch doesn't really, it's not like a full switch, but it's just a piece of plastic there. And then in here, uh, there's this leg of the LED. So I'm going to bend that that way, and then I'm going to bend it that way. Now with metal, you want to be careful not to bend it too many times or it breaks.
Mhm.
So let's see. Got that. And then how do you want to come off? So you do have to kind of fuss with it a little bit.
Mhm.
And
I'm sorry, Chris, I'm interrupting. What were
yeah,
you going to say?
well, you got to fuss with it a little bit, and you want to be careful not to slip when you do. Oh, look at that. So this part here slides out. I've noticed that each time I take one of these, well, not every time I take one of these apart, but every time I go shopping for a new tea candle or find a new tea candle, I find that there's different designs. And this is one that I haven't seen where there's a separate little thing that slides in to hold the switch together and hold the LED onto it.
Yeah,
And
they do
then,
all seem to be different, which is makes it tough on our end to give like a clear set of directions. But what Chris just did is probably one of the more challenging air quote steps in Scrappy circuits is opening it up. So a lot of times when you look at the battery compartment, there's a little vent hole right there, and that's where the battery cap kind of clips in. What I usually do is I have an Allen wrench today. You can take a lot of different tools and just kind of wedge something up there and just keep kind of pulling and poking, and you want to get it looped into that hole and just keep pulling, poking until you crack it open. When you crack it open, just like Chris did, you take it apart. A lot of times there's a little movable piece of plastic. Many times it's black, and what that does is it's moving one of the LED legs away and against the battery, turning it on and off, a switch. And then wiggle, bend if you need to, but as Chris was saying too, don't bend a lot, and just kind of pick that LED up. And that's that. At this part, we've dissected our LED tea light, and we have the parts we need, and we're ready to get going. Anything you want to add, Chris?
well, what I also find is that it's helpful to straighten this out a little bit. And if you compare the two legs, sometimes you'll see that one is shorter than the other. And then also another thing that you can see, you'll see, hold on a second, let's, so if you look here, this side looks like it has a flat. Let me just make sure that I'm seeing that right.
It's funny. I'm looking at mine. Mine does
Yeah.
not follow the LED rules about the leg length.
Yeah.
I have.
And this one, both of the legs are the same,
Mm-hmm.
but what it does have is a flat on this one right here. And what that means is that is the negative.
So that flat part, if you're looking at my screen, you can see that one part looks inside the LED is like a triangle, and then the other part is just a branch that goes up. And that piece with the triangle, the larger part, it also has a little flat edge on the side, which would be absolutely impossible for you to see, but it's right there. And that denotes that that's the negative terminal in the LED. So that's where the electricity is going to go kind of out, or has in connection to the battery, it needs to be connected that way. When I've done this with students, and I teach third grade, I've done it with library groups, a lot of different groups. This part is my favorite part, the dissecting. And then the kind of grand finale of the dissecting is you take your LED and you take your battery and you put them together like this. And you just have the most simple circuit possible. You have your battery, you have your LED. Again, that negative leg of the LED has to be connected to the negative side of the battery and so on, and the positive. But once you do that, you get it light up. Now, if you're a professional experience maker, you're probably doing this and thinking not much of it. But if you are a kid, when you realize that you've just made something light up, it is a magical moment to watch in a kid's face, and really, really cool. So that, I think, is one of those steps that is always important if you're leading a Scrappy Circuits group. What do we have there? Is that
Well,
like a
so
color change one?
I just decided to go grab a different one out of the pile, and this one actually has a switch on it.
Okay.
So this must be like an older, more antique tea light that it has an actual switch. Um, and that switch is actually kind of a nice thing to find.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of neat. And then let's see if I can get it to light up. There we go.
There we go. Nice and bright. Love it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then also you'll notice that some of them have a flicker to them, but not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And this 3 volts will work with pretty much any LEDs. So let me reach over into my pile of LEDs. And there's another one. So this is a big, huge green LED. And that one worked out.
We have a red
let's see
one.
if I can- Oh yeah, that's
Light
nice.
up.
And
I mean, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she will just play with an LED and a battery for a long time and love it. There's a certain amount of power. I think it's like our dinosaur brains, and our ability to capture fire and evolve that's being triggered. But there's something kind of really fun and amazing about just getting an LED to light up.
Yeah. These ones I found a couple of years ago, and just a bulk LED, and it's a super bright LED. So there's lots of fun things you can do with LEDs, and basically it's a simple circuit. This is the simplest circuit that you can make.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you can see that it works this way, and we've been showing this quite a bit. But if you take the LED and you switch it, it won't go.
Right.
And that's because the LED stands for light emitting diode. And a diode only lets electricity flow in one direction. Unless
Kind
you
of like the supermarkets right now. You're only allowed to go in the aisle in one direction. Yes.
Yeah. There are bipolar LEDs that will light up. Sometimes they'll light up like green and red or something like that, and those are different. Sometimes those will even have 3 legs on them, but inside one of those is actually multiple LEDs. But the basic bottom of the market tea candle LED is just a simple LED that only lights up when you do it in one direction. And more of them lately are having this flicker to them so that they look like they've got a flame going on. And then they also have this shape on it. So that looks like it's got a little fire.
All right. So we just did kind of the first step in Scrappy Circuits, which is taking apart an LED tea light. Now, excuse me. I know a lot of people that have built Scrappy Circuits with their classes, and they avoid this whole step. And they buy batteries in bulk, they buy LEDs in bulk, and they don't make the switch that takes the case that we'll get to later. That's all fine. Whatever works for you, whatever works for your situation. Scrappy Circuits is not like a set of clear directions that have to be followed, a mandate. It's really kind of an ethos about how to teach invention literacy, how to teach kids to realize that they have parts in their house that they can use to start inventing and creating. That's the goal. So however you get to that goal is fine by us for sure. So
and I think
now,
we kind of think similarly that the process of disassembling the tea light opens up some interesting ideas in the minds of kids.
this is true, yeah.
And that you also get to take a look at different design characteristics, like this one that has the switch, and actually it has the wire on it, and I couldn't get this LED to come out, but I mean, I could if I weren't trying to talk at the same time. this is a different design than this other one that had the little slide thing that held the switch in place, and different than the one that you had too. So you get at, there's lots of different ways to make things.
Yeah, and I think the point you made too, I think, is really valuable. That part of the fun of Scrappy Circuits is also taking a thing that you've seen on your aunt's mantle and demystifying it and taking it apart and understanding it. So if you're doing this with a large group and maybe even a young group, maybe you buy in bulk. If you're doing this with 1 or 2 kids, as Chris was saying, I would definitely recommend buying some tea lights and taking them apart. So of all the things that you see scattered on Chris's desk, what we are going to use are 3 parts from what we just disassembled to make a total of 5 core bricks. So Scrappy Circuits has a lot of different bricks, but there's 5 bricks that are kind of the starting point, the core bricks. And the things we're going to use for those, we're going to use our LED. This is not the one I got from my light, but here, this one is. We're going to use our 3-volt battery, and we're going to use our candle case. Okay? Chris, which one do you want to build first, battery or LED?
Let's see. How about we do the battery one? And also, I found that having a plastic tub with the supplies in it helps make things a little more manageable. And then, so here, this
with
one
you.
here,
Plastic tub life, hashtag.
tub life, that's it. And then, so for the battery, you'll need a piece of cardboard. And one thing that, so you showed me this neat trick where you get this cardboard cutter. These things are great, but you should be careful that with these cardboard cutters, hey, look at that, we both got them. You can totally cut yourself. It doesn't seem like you'd be able to cut yourself with this, but oh man, you can cut yourself and it hurts. So basically a serrated knife. So got some binder clips, and I've got a couple different sizes, but all the big ones are the ones that are jumping out of the box at me. So I found that if I place it and then put it over like that, and then know that I'm going to put another one here, so then somewhere in here, I guess, maybe even a little closer. And so if you were going to get ready for a whole class full of kids doing this, you'd probably want to have these cut into little pieces.
Interesting. Chris, I met a guy named Gerard Anks, a teacher, local teacher to me, north of Philadelphia, and he builds Scrappy Circuits every year with first graders. And it was interesting because he told me how he kind of modifies things. So he does not have the kids disassemble a tea light just because they're young, and that could be an issue for younger students. But he says what he does have them do is he does have the kids cut the cardboard. And he says that is one of the favorite parts of assembling Scrappy Circuits.
And you can also cut it with scissors. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. There's different ways of doing it.
So as Chris was kind of saying, battery, you're going to have your piece of cardboard. You're going to have binder clips. Chris is using medium-sized binder clips. I'm using small. I recommend using small binder clips. And as far as the spacing that Chris was mentioning, you want it so when you close both arms, they heavily overlap. Not just touch a little bit, but overlap like this. And the idea is you put one on each side, flap one binder clip arm down, place your battery there, flap your other binder clip arm down, and now you have a battery brick. Now, I'm pinching it. If I let go, everything falls apart. So instead of having to hold that for all of eternity, which would not be preferred, you get a third binder clip and put that on top. So one binder clip is a terminal. One binder clip is a terminal. So two binder clips are terminals, I should say. And then one holds everything together on the top like that. Anything else, Chris?
Well, and then also, when I do this in a workshop setting, at the end of it, you end up with a lot of extra batteries. And there's different strategies for how to store them. This technique is one that I like, where basically you take a battery and you put it inside a piece of folded cardboard, and then you clip it. And then that way, when you drop it into the tub with a whole bunch of conductors, then the battery doesn't drain itself. So I'm going to take this battery out of its storage from the last workshop. And then how do you place them? Positive down or
usually
positive
do the
up?
positive, the smooth flat side down.
Okay.
It works either way. I don't know why I got into that that habit, but I'm totally into the habit. That's the way I make it every time. I think it might be maybe because you're going around the smooth edge is the outside. Not that these are very fashionable, but and then I also labeled mine. And maybe this is also why I kind of got in that habit, is the smooth flat side of your battery. If you look at it, and this one might be too reflective to even see, but it has a plus side on it, or plus sign on it. And that is the positive side of your battery. So that's why there's a little plus sign right here on my battery brick, because this arm is connected to that smooth flat side of the battery. That rougher side is the negative side, and this arm's connected to that, and there's a minus there. As Chris was saying earlier with LEDs, that matters, because if you hook your LED brick up incorrectly, which is what we're going to do next, it won't work. It has to be hooked up with the electricity flowing in a certain direction so it will work.
So another way I look at the battery is you'll notice that this battery here has a small area, and then there's the wall of the battery and the back. And the side that has the wall and the back is the positive. There's more material there. And then the side that has just the insert is the minus. So less material is minus, more material is positive.
I like it. Very, very positive message for talking about batteries. So we started with the battery brick, and excuse the sound of me rumbling through my large plastic tub, but the logical next place is going to be the battery brick. Or I'm sorry, not the battery brick, the LED brick. So take your LED, spread the legs flat, and then binder clip on each side. Now, a lot of these Scrappy circuit bricks are very reliable, and other ones are not as reliable. This isn't a product we're selling to you. This is something you're making. When I say reliable, I mean the chances of kind of an amateur putting it together and having it work the first time. This is one that, unfortunately, even though it's kind of a core brick and a core part of it, is not always the most reliable. And part of that reason is because of that small point of connection between the wire and the binder clip. Few things that will increase the reliability of this brick. Giving a little squeeze right here to make sure it's nice and strong against the LED. Number one. Number two, and I don't have any sandpaper, but if you take some sandpaper and sand the inside mouth of your binder clip, this black coating is conductive. It will conduct, but you just get a better connection if you sand some of that off. And then, and this is what I've been doing a lot recently, aluminum foil is like butter for cooking, and it just makes everything better, makes everything smoother. So I just take a little bit of it, fold it over a few times, kind of tuck it under. I'll do it this way. The LED leg, fold it over.
A bit of sandpaper.
There we go.
And so I'm just going to sand that off a little bit. And basically what I'm doing is I'm pushing the binder clip open a little bit, and then running that. So that's one clip is sanded, and then here's another clip. I'll sand this one too.
As you're doing that, I'm using my tinfoil method, and
Yeah.
both of them work. I think the best is a combination of the two. You don't have to choose which one.
Yeah.
Both work. Chris is going to probably look better than mine. Mine's pretty sloppy, but depending on the group you're with, the tools you have, choose the best one. One thing you do have to be careful of with tinfoil is make sure you don't put so much tinfoil that actually bridges these two connections. So make sure the only thing going from side to side is that LED. You don't put too much.
I'm a huge fan of this. It's called duct tape. It's what HVAC people use for sealing ductwork. And this is something I get in the hardware store. And I like to get it when it's not printed. It's aluminum tape. So it's aluminum that has adhesive on the back of it. And this stuff is gold. I really like this. And it's about $8 for a 50-yard, 2-inch wide roll. You can also use copper tape, but I always find that that's more precious and more expensive, so I tend not to use that. And so here I'm going to do that same technique with putting this under the binder clip, but I'm just going to use a little bit of this aluminum tape.
All right. So the next step was going to be to connect your battery brick to your LED brick. And I just gave everything a little test, make sure it works. As Chris was talking, one of the legs didn't work. So I'm going to show you what I did real quick. So I have my black alligator clip on my negative. I have my red alligator clip on my positive. I'm going to put that down because I only have two hands. And then here, I'm going to hook my red positive alligator clip to the positive binder clip. And then the opposite over here. And it's lighting up. Now, what happened was it wasn't lighting up at first. And what I did was I took this alligator clip off and I tried to go right into the LED leg to see which side was happening, which side the issue was. And what was happening is this negative side was when I had my my alligator clip clipped here, it wasn't working, but when I went right in and touched it, it was. And that meant something was faulty with this. So I just kind of opened it up, moved it around, wiggled, squeezed. Sounds like a steps for a line dance. And then got it to work. Another important thing with the alligator clips is don't put the binder clip so far in that it can wiggle around. You want it to be in the teeth like that. So right now I have a very simple circuit, LED and battery. And it's similar effect to what we were doing before with just having the LED straddling the battery. But the difference now is we've kind of attached them to tiles and we've started to connect them. And you can kind of assume that there's a whole modular system that's being built out of this. Chris, anything you want to add?
Well, I'm going to try and match you circuit for circuit.
All right.
So I've connected, now I also have red and a couple of other colors. I guess it's worth noting that the color itself doesn't affect the flow of the circuit. The circuit flows in the direction that it is gonna flow. And the color is a human system that we use to keep track of what's going on. And let me move some of this debris out of the way. And there we go. So we got that. And I'm going to connect this one to here. Now, I don't know which way is the right way to do this because it's a diode. And I'm also hoping that I have a good connection. When you did yours, it didn't. Please work.
All right. So while Chris is troubleshooting, feel free to watch. Notice that I labeled mine. and I labeled mine based on, and looking in the LED, I'm actually going to draw an LED and what it looks like real quick for everyone on the inside.
All right, so I've got it connected right to the LED, right? So I know that it's the LED connecting, and I know that I've sort of made sure that there's no. Oh, well, this could be a problem. It could be that this is a battery that I used in a previous workshop, so
Okay.
it could be that this battery is no good. So let's find out if that's the case.
So while Chris is doing that, I want to show everyone, this is what the inside of an LED looks like. I know it kind of looks like a Mandalorian helmet, which I actually have printed right here.
Nice.
But it's not a Mandalorian helmet. And this bigger piece is always the negative side. So if you have your LED brick already assembled and you're like, I didn't notice which leg was longer, I can't see the notch, all you have to do is kind of tilt it and look at the LED and see which is that bigger part, and that's your negative side. So a quick, easy way to kind of label it and keep organized. And then when connecting the LED to your battery, it's negative connects to negative. So the negative side of your LED connects to the negative side of your battery, positive to positive.
So another way that I think about that is if you look very carefully inside there, you'd need a clear LED to see it. And let's see if I can find a clear LED. Here's a clear LED. It's mostly clear. You might be able to see that. Can you see that? Not really.
No, the light's kind of blowing it out.
So if you look inside there, you'll see that there's a dish that big part is. And the way I think about it is the dish is a negative shape. Okay. And so that dish is the negative side. And the dish is
added the dish to my picture. Kind of makes it look more like a Mandalorian helmet now. Look.
There you go.
Do I look like the Mandalorian now, Chris?
Nice. Yeah, he's just like him. So let's see. So what I think I found out was that this battery here might not be good.
Uh-oh.
And so that kind of thing happens. It might be handy for you to have access to a multimeter. And if you do have access to a multimeter, that can be good. You can also just test it with an LED. So with this one here, let's pop this out and see. Let's see if, oh, okay. So it looks like it's working, but it wasn't working, and I had another battery pack handy, so I went with that.
All right. So yeah, I mean, this is not if you want a reliable product that's similar to this, there are ones available for hundreds of dollars in some cases, and this is the 50-cent version. I mean, we're not saying we're going to be reliable. We're saying we're going to be cheap and scrappy. And in addition to saving money, and especially if you think about, a class of 20 kids, spending 50 cents a kid or $1 a kid makes a lot more sense for a teacher than $20 a kid. I think also with Scrappy Circuits, you learn a lot. We've taken things apart, we've explored, and you know what? We're doing it at a real low risk. If one of our LED legs breaks, all right, we're out 50 cents, but we're not out $50, $100 like some of these other products. So we have our 2 of 3 of our core bricks done. We have our LED light, we have our battery. The next thing that we need to do is, when I think about electricity, my favorite part of a circuit is always going to be a switch. And when I think of that, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, I think of LEDs and lights, of kind of our reptile brain and humans harnessing the power of fire, but it was really our ability to control fire that really helped us evolve. And switches control electricity, switches control fire. So that control is what really has allowed computers and so many inventions to exist, allowed something like this to exist, that binary on-off control. So switches are a very, very important part of a circuit. And there are 3 switches in the 5 core bricks. They are a push switch, a binder clip switch. I don't have any of these labeled. And then last one is called a dial switch. Now there are 3 switches and they look similar enough, but they operate in a very different way. So Chris, how about starting with the push switch? Does that sound good?
Sure, that sounds good.
All right. So to make your push switch, you need 2 binder clips and 1 paper clip. This switch is called a momentary switch. And what it means is when you are applying force to it, it is on for a moment. And as soon as you release that force, it's off. So this would be almost like a keyboard key or a remote control button. If you push the 3 button on your remote, it sends a quick zap to your TV saying that's the 3 button, but it's not locked on forever until you do something else. It's kind of just a quick momentary push. And to make this, you need the 1 paper clip. Your paper clip has to be silver like this, but also it has to be made out of metal. Some silver paper clips, you might look at them, they're silver, you think they're made out of metal, but they're not. So it has to be conductive. And to test its conductivity, you can easily kind of take a paper clip, incorporate it in your circuit. If it works, incorporate it in your circuit, then it conducts electricity. So I'm going to disassemble this real quick and then reassemble it. So first step is put a binder clip right there and put 1 arm down. Second step, take your paper clip and lay it across your binder clip arm that is up and binder clip it into place and then bend it up. And make sure the small loop is not touching the binder clip. Now you have that distance and that action, so when you close it, it's on, and when you let go, it's off. And that is your push switch. I'm going to label mine.
Now, in my house, apparently, there are no paper clips. So I'm going to show a different version of this using the aluminum tape, and I'm going to use a clothespin. So you can keep talking and I'll just build.
So while you're doing that, just because I kind of closed on the push switch, I'm going to talk about the binder clip switch, which is the most simple one. And if you thought the push slip switch was simple, this one is even more simple. It's just 2 binder clips, 1 on this side, 1 on this side. And the idea behind it is one stays closed, and then the other one is your moving part to make this into what's called a toggle switch. And a toggle switch, the best example is any light switch in your house. You walk into the room, you turn it on, and you leave it on. Then when you leave that room, you toggle it off, and it's off. And this very simple switch is the toggle switch. All right? So while Chris is working,
so what I've done here is I've put the aluminum foil onto one side of the switch, going down into the mouth of the clothespin. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And with this aluminum tape, sometimes the hardest part of it is to peel the back off of it. But eventually it does peel off. And so then we'll go like that. We'll put that onto there. And then we'll peel that. All right. And so now we've got that. So now we basically have similar behaving switches. This is normally closed. And so when you open it, you open the circuit. Okay. How we doing?
Kind of the opposite. It rests in the on position, and then it momentarily opens and the light is off, right?
It's normally closed, so unless you do the other end, you can set it up on the other end too. It's closed, a closed switch, unless you open it.
So that's kind of a nice counterpart to the push switch, because this is off or open, and then as soon as you push down, it completes its close, the light turns on. So a nice counterpart. We can call that the pull switch, because it's kind of like the opposite of the push.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then as far as incorporating these switches into your circuit, very simple. Take your circuit and disconnect any wires. Switches generally do not have any polarity, so it doesn't matter where they are in the circuit, which way the electricity is going in. There's no plus or minus side. It's just the simple art of disconnecting and connecting. So I'm going to connect to one of my binder clips. And then now I have a third alligator clip that I'm going to use to connect this arm where my previous wire was, and then this arm. And now I'm going to drop the battery, pick up the LED. It's a tangled mess. And it's not, it is working. Oh, there we go. There it is.
There we go.
So a lot of finagling over here, but let me tighten things up over here.
Let's see if I can get mine to go too. So I'm going to put one wire onto the tail of the switch, and then I'm going to take a wire off of my LED and put that wire onto my switch. And then I'm going to take that and put it back onto my LED. And now, when I open a clothespin, then I have a blinking light.
Nice. And now I got mine working. I added a little tin foil in there. Like I said, it's like butter for cooking. Just makes everything a little easier. Now I push down and it's on, let go, and it's off. So that's a demo of the push switch. I'm going to show the toggle switch real quick. And then the fifth switch is easily the most complicated. These two switches are pretty simple. So right now we're toggled on, toggling off, flickering, there it is, toggling on, and then so on. The fifth switch is what's called a dial switch. Easily the most complicated. Like I said, I had a friend who does this with first graders, and he just bypasses this switch, does not build it with them. To build this, what you're going to do is you're going to take your LED light body, and you're going to wrap aluminum foil around the outside and then on the inside and this inside edge for about 50%, 50 to maybe 70% of the LED body. See how I have that open there? Another kind of name that we batted around for this one was the salt shaker switch, because it kind of operates similar to the way a salt shaker does. Get your tin foil. Normally you have a glue stick. I kind of scoured my house. I could not find one. Quarantine problems. So you just kind of put your tin foil in there, pull it back, and just wrap it so it's around the outside edge and the inside, but most importantly, it's around the edge of this body. All right. Then you're going to take some tin foil and cardboard, and you're going to put a little tin foil on each end, fold it over, and binder clip each side. Again, it's going to help to probably add a little glue from a glue stick to this. It'll just stick a little better.
Or you could use the aluminum tape, which would help it hold into place.
And make sure that on the other side you don't have your aluminum foil touching. So one side, this is going to be the top. And I'm also going to, I don't think I have anything sharp really, but I'm going to poke a little hole just using my alligator clip into the middle. There we go. Just a little hole. And the reason for that is I'm going to take my LED body and I'm going to put it on top of here. And then I'm going to take a paper clip and I'm going to do what I call teeing a paper clip, which means kind of bend this part down and then out until you get a nice tee like that. And the reason is I'm going to thread that tee through the binder clip or through the LED candle body, through my hole, and then it's sticking out the bottom. And I'm just going to give a little bend to that. Now what's happening is anytime this tin foil is touching both sides, the circuit's going to be on, and anytime it's just touching one side, it's going to be off. So this would be the off position, on, off, on. This could do a full 360, wouldn't fall apart on you. But that is how it works. Another thing I do, and again I don't have it here, is I tape this back part down. And just taping that down holds everything a little better. Yeah, no tape here, sorry. I do have that in the house. I can't blame that in the quarantine. I just forgot it. So incorporate this into my circuit. So here we go. My LED is on. I'm going to spin this. It's very fragile because I didn't add any glue. It's off. Spin it on. It falls apart. Can't blame the quarantine on the tape, but there we go. It's on, and you spin, and it's off. So, one of my favorite things about Scrappy circuits is actually how they are unreliable. Because something works perfectly, you never have to take it apart. You never have to really think about what's happening and what you have to do to problem solve and fix it. So, a lot of the things that Chris showed you, that I showed you, they didn't work perfectly. And that's great, in my opinion, because that really allows us to explore what's happening, talk about it, and kind of look into what's happening and so on, and problem solve. And I think that's important. And what's nice is everything that I'm holding right now, it's the core of a circuit. We have switches, we have an LED, we have a power source, all of this, and it was all mined out of something that's 50 cents with some binder clips and some alligator clips and some paper clips and some tin foil. Now, alligator clips, I wouldn't say they're expensive. $6 can get you a pack of 10, 20, depending on where you are. When you buy in bulk, they're going to be a little cheaper, obviously. There is an alternative to alligator clips.
You can make your own by buying a kit and then doing the wire, but this requires some time to mess around with it.
So we do have what we call Squeaky Clips, which is very simply aluminum foil twisted and rolled up. There's nothing in the middle. It's just aluminum foil, and then a small paper clip at each end. And you can see I even added some glue. And the reason for that glue is when you're using these, I'll be honest, again, they're not very reliable. And when they break down, it's usually right here between the paper clip and the tin foil connection. When you wiggle it, it usually wiggles and gets itself some wiggle room and then isn't held tight. So when I make them, I always add a little hot glue to each end to hold everything together. And you can use these. And when you do, let's see if I can...
And also,
wire in a circuit. When I use them, I actually slide the paper clip right up the side of the binder clip, just like that. It actually holds perfectly like that. And then let's see if this guy's going to work for me today. Oh, I saw a little blank there. I'm going to do the same for the LED. To hook it up correctly. It hooked it up correctly, so it's not working. And this is kind of what I was saying. They're not very reliable. They're much cheaper, but they're not reliable. So as far as kind of putting forth maybe a few dollars in the effort of Scrappy Circuits, this is definitely recommended because with alligator clips it's working, with the Scrappy clip it's not. One of the things I usually do with Scrappy clips is when I do this in, say, a library setting, I'll provide a whole bunch of alligator clips. But at the end of the session, the kids are allowed to keep all of their bricks. They're not allowed to keep my alligator clips. And I'd bring them to the Scrappy Circuits website, www.scrappycircuits.com, and they can find directions to make these, or they can find affiliate links to buy their own alligator clips. And if a parent or a student was really into this, I tell them, scrounge for the $10, the $6, and buy some alligator clips, because they do not have to be permanently used for Scrappy Circuits. They can be reused for many, many other purposes.
So I'd just like to show the my variation on the rotary switch. So this one, I had this bottle of salad dressing that I pulled out of the recycling bin, and I have a piece of aluminum tape that goes down the side and has a little flap on it that you can gator clip onto or Scrappy clip onto, and then another one down here. So there's the two sides of the switch. And then in the cap, there's another piece of aluminum tape. And then you put the cap on, and when the cap is in its tightest position, then you're bridging those two sides. And I did a couple different versions of it. This one is with the salad dressing, and then this one here is with peanut butter jar. And although with the peanut butter jar, so here, right now, I can test it to see if it's going to work. I've got the battery clip and the LED, and I can test it by touching this, right? And so that works. Now you could have your circuit inside. You could take everything and stuff it inside there. That would be kind of interesting. So there we know that it works, right? And then I'm going to put this cap on, and then I'm going to pay attention to the fact that it's going to go here, right? And so it goes on this end of the, there. It's going to go there, and then I'm going to take this again. The getting the backing off of this tape might be the trickiest part of the whole thing. And
while Chris is doing that, I just wanted to, I mentioned already, but talk about how these are the 5 core bricks for Scrappy Circuits. There are many, many what we're calling bonus bricks or other bricks, and they just let kids' imaginations run wild with other possibilities. You have buzzers, you have magic wands, a lot of really cool bricks that the kids can make. These are the 5 core bricks because they can easily be made by from an LED tea light, and they're great. They're great for like one session at a library, one hangout session with, if you're the cool uncle in your family, and then kids could kind of go to scrappycircuits.com and keep working and keep inventing if they feel so. So it's usually like a great place to start with the 5 core bricks and then keep going with other inventions. And again, Scrappy Circuits is an ethos. It's not a set of directions that have to be explicitly followed. Chris doesn't have the LED dial switch, so he kind of found a jar and made his version. And that is totally not just allowed, but that is our goal, that everyone does things a little different. If you go on Twitter and search Scrappy Circuits, you'll see a lot of different variations on what we did. And they all work and they're all wonderful. And it's about really being resourceful, finding what you have in your house and learning invention literacy from what you have in your house. Any closing thoughts, Chris?
Well, I think, let me switch my camera back. There we go. There we go. I just think it's a lot of fun. There's very few barriers between you experimenting with it and having a good time. And there's just lots of neat things you can do with it. And this could lead you to other interesting things that you can do with electricity and with inventions. You could connect this to a motor. What outputs you use or different possibilities. There's just literally an endless set of possibilities from this one simple little thing that starts with a tea candle.
For 50 cents. So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much. Stay scrappy. Get scrappy if you're not scrappy. But if you are scrappy, stay scrappy. Thanks for listening to us. Check out scrappycircuits.com. If you are inspired, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, all those things as Scrappy Maker. And Chris, your handle is?
Connors934.
Connors934, right?
Yep.
Connors, CONNORS 934.
That's correct.
There you go. All right. So thank you so much for spending some time with us and take care.
Have a good time.